Which shoe is better to hoop in? The Nike Zoom Freak 4 or the Kyrie 8 Infinity? Let's check it out. Welcome back to our channel. Today we're looking at the newest shoes to release in Giannis and Kyrie's signature lines with Nike. But before I break down the performance side for these shoes, we'll just kind of knock out some of the basic info first. So the Zoom Freak 4 is going to retail for $130. These did get a $10 price jump from last year's model, but no price change on the Kyrie 8s. They did keep the same $130 retail price from the Kyrie 7s. So taking a quick look at each model, I really do like the changes that came to this year's Zoom Freak 4. Aside from them losing the strap, I mean, I was a little bit sad to see that go, but the reverse swoosh running up the side of the shoe is really sick. Like, they made it a lot bigger on this year's model compared to what was on the Zoom Freak 3s, and that reverse swoosh is now shown up in 3 of his 4 shoes from Giannis's line so far. Like, Nike even puts in the description how for this year's model that reverse swoosh is going to be a signature of the Zoom Freak line, so it does look like we'll see more of that design going forward. And then along the heel is going to be some Freak text right up around the collar. And then these shoes have some like ridges built into the midsole. They look really cool, but I will kind of touch on the purpose of those here in a second, but definitely not a bad look for this year's Zoom Freak 4. Now switching it over to look at the Kyrie 8s. These did keep the same mid-top structure that most of his shoes have kind of been following, and they are kind of split in half for like the materials being used, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit more here in a second. But the front half has this cool like camo pattern, and then around the back you're going to see that like black spot has more of like a leather feel back there, and then you're going to have a really cool wavy pattern on the back half of the shoe. I think those multicolored lines back there look really clean. And then these have a mismatching tongue setup with Kyrie's signature being on one shoe, then you get like an hourglass design on the other. And I feel like this Kyrie 8 does look a lot more similar to the Kyrie 6 compared to like, you know, the Kyrie 7s that released last year. I don't see a ton of resemblances there, but honestly both of these shoes are pretty nice. But now let's see how they hold up on the court. So now getting into more of the materials and the performance side, and starting off with the cushioning. Before I get to how they feel, I'll kind of give you the cushioning setup for each shoe first. So the Zoom Freak 4 uses a lightweight midsole that is hollowed out in the forefoot, and that's where you have 2 Zoom Air units are going to be positioned at, and that allows for those Zoom Air units to compress under the weight and then expand to be able to help with energy return. And then as for the Kyrie 8s, Nike used an updated 3-layer cushioning system where you get a Zoom Air unit in the forefoot that is sandwiched between a molded insole and softer foam, and they did use less layers and less foam and fewer layers that is supposed to help improve your court feel and just be able to unlock that Zoom energy returning potential. So both of these shoes do have the same type of setup, and by that I mean I consider the Kyrie 8 and the Zoom Freak 4 to be more of like a top heavy like setup whenever it comes to cushioning. And you do have those 2 Zoom Air units in the forefoot on the Zoom Freak 4s. The Kyrie 8s have that Zoom Air unit up there too, but you don't get the same exact feel between these models. The Kyrie 8 does have a lot more spring from what I've noticed on the court. Like with each step and jump, you can literally feel that unit just compress and then respond by giving you really nice energy return. The Zoom Freak 4s, they are pretty much like the same exact thing that was going on for the Zoom Freak 3s whenever it comes to cushioning, and they have the same exact setup and they feel the same way. And honestly, I'm not like overly impressed. Like, you don't have an overwhelming sense of like comfort whenever you put these on. The heel is a spot like I feel like definitely lacks a little bit on this shoe, and that can be pretty common whenever you're dealing with a shoe that, you know, places special emphasis on the forefoot like both of these models do. But the Kyrie 8 just feels a little bit more padded in the heel, and the sock binder does feel nice on both shoes though. I mean, that definitely is there to enhance the comfort. And then using our durometer to check out the midsole, the Kyrie 8 reads at a 43, which is a little bit more on the firm side. The Zoom Freak 4 was reading at a 36, and you know, that tool just kind of tests out how firm or like soft the midsole is. Clearly it isn't always like a direct indication of how the shoes are going to play. So honestly, I am kind of hoping that Nike tries something new on Giannis's line next year. Like, they did repeat the same setup, and it just hasn't been the most comfortable shoe to play in so far. I'm assuming they probably will change it up though. As for the Kyrie 8, so they play really great for this section. For the materials and support, first looking at the Zoom Freak 4s, the biggest difference to this section would be they lost the strap that was on last year's model, as you can see right here. But aside from that, these do have a really like just similar build. Like, it is still going to be set up and positioned a little bit different. So the toe area is where you're going to see like a white textile that feels pretty thin, not nearly as thin as that green section in the middle of the upper though. That spot's actually transparent, so you don't have to worry about, you know, getting air to your foot. It's kind of built in right there. And then around the back half of the shoe is clearly going to be more filled in. And even with the Zoom Freak 4s losing the strap, there are multiple nice support features on this shoe. So I mean, first, these are going to have the same outrigger that was there on the Zoom Freak 3s, and that kind of extends out from the shoe in the front where you see that green air pocket built into the midsole, and that's just there to give you better balance and also just help brace your foot on some of those tougher movements whenever you're making those. And then you're also going to have like a little black overlay running across the toes, but the big Nike swoosh is where the bulk of the help is going to come from whenever you're talking about the support. Like, it extends onto the upper, and that just helps keep your foot from just like trying to slide out to the side. side. These have a really nice heel counter to go along with it, so definitely some nice support features on the Zoom Freak 4s. But now switching it over to look at the Kyrie 8s, you do have a few different things going on here. Like in the front half of the shoe is going to be where you have like that camo design, and that's going to be a thinner textile that does help us keep this shoe on the lighter side. And the ventilation is definitely nice because of that, so you don't have to worry about airflow again there. And then you are going to get some nicer materials on the back half of the shoe, kind of near the ankle. Like that black patch has more of a leather feel, and like I was saying earlier, that is going to fall more in line with the Kyrie 6 than it will last year's Kyrie 7. Like the Kyrie 7 had textiles pretty much covering the entire shoe, but the support is another highlight for this Kyrie 8 shoe for a few different reasons. Like the upper doesn't give on any of your harder movements, and the black straps that actually run under the laces and kind of like are on the outside where you see those wings, those like black wings are there to mark out a strap that's going to run behind your heel and just like wrap your foot into the design. It also is going to run up and forward around your toes just to pull your entire foot into the design. And like you can see that little blue line that runs along the toe box where it kind of marks out that where that strap begins and ends. I do think it's a pretty cool little piece there. But once again, Kyrie does give us a shoe that delivers with really nice support. And both of these shoes are going to be on the lighter side today. The Kyrie 8s weigh 400 grams for a size 10.5. And that is on the lighter side, too average for like most basketball shoes, but especially with, you know, this being a mid top, that's a nice benefit. And then the Zoom Freak 4s are going to be down even lower than that, weighing 382 grams for the same size. So with neither shoe struggling with support, you do have to like that. So to finish off with traction, once again, I'll kind of lay out the patterns for these shoes first. So the Zoom Freak 4s went with a computer-generated outsole that is meant to give you multi-directional traction and a pattern that resembles a topographical map. And the whole purpose of this pattern is just to kind of like help optimize ground contact and give you better change of direction opportunities. And then for the Kyrie 8s, these have an edgy multi-directional tread pattern that is designed around how Kyrie cuts and jabs on the court, providing traction precisely where it is needed. So the Zoom Freak 4s, they pretty much copied the same idea from the Zoom Freak 3s. But between the cushion and the traction, the two main spots that they copied, I haven't really found a model in Giannis's line that has felt like really nice to play in. Like these feel pretty good. I'd say relatively consistent, but they definitely aren't great. And the Kyrie 8s are kind of in the same boat, just maybe a slightly nicer boat. Like the Kyrie 7s were just okay for me whenever it comes to traction. The Kyrie 8 does feel like a small step up, but neither shoe would probably have traction as their best like performance feature. It's like somewhere in the middle. But to finish off with sizing, I did go true to size on both. And honestly, like these fit like the exact same. The length is going to be good, and you have about a thumb's width left over there. And then you have a little bit more like, I mean, these lean on the wider side than narrow, so there's nothing to worry about with the width. So for the final ratings and starting off with the appearance, I really do love the reverse swoosh that was on this year's Zoom Freak 4. The Kyrie 8s have a cool look too though, so I'm going to start off with a tie. And then for cushioning, you do get the same front loaded setup between both of these models, but it's just a little bit more juice in the Kyrie 8s. Like they just feel softer overall, so I'm going to go with the Kyrie 8s here. The materials are nice on both shoes though, like neither feels cheap and both shoes are light to move around in, so we're going to come back to a tie. And as for the support, you do have a nice outrigger to go along with the midfoot band on the Zoom Freak 4s, and you have some nice straps kind of wrapping around the Kyrie 8s too. Both of these shoes do a great job for this section, so I'm going to come back to a tie here. Then to finish off with traction, it's definitely going to be close again, but I do feel a little bit more bite on the Kyrie 8s, so I am going to lean that way. So for me, I am going to take the Nike Kyrie 8 Infinity as the better shoe to hoop. Like the cushion is one of the main reasons I love the Kyrie 8 model. The bouncy forefoot just makes this a really fun shoe to play in. The Zoom Freak 4s are just like pretty much the same shoe as the Zoom Freak 3, just a slightly different look, and they got more expensive. It's still not a bad shoe to play in, but I am hoping to see some changes next year. Thank you guys for taking some time to watch. Feel free to drop a follow or subscribe if you like this video. And if you're interested in buying the Nike Kyrie 8 and you want to support our channel, just click the link here on screen. We have links for both shoes down below or in our bio, so feel free to check that out. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoewear. Peace.